Next Please by Philip Larkin. Introduction. The Next Please published in Philip Larkin 1951 collection, The Last Deceit. Larkin's speaker emphasizes our collective pain for anticipating the future and all it brings. It seems our fondest hopes are centered on what the future entails. However, the actual events often fail to match our greatest expectations. Summary. In the first stanza, the speaker contains that we are too eager for the future and we spend too much time agonizing over what it will bring. He calls this habit a bad one. All in all, he maintains that we make too much of events that have yet to occur. Long before we see any sign of them, our imagination takes over. There is always something coming next, something new on horizon. We always see for new things, better things to come in future. In the second stanza, the speaker contends that our anticipatory spirit often leads to pointless complaining. We want the future to arrive, to hurry its approach. Larkin's speaker compares this anticipation to watching a ship painstakingly close the distance of ocean between itself and audience of onlookers. However, it is like a ship that is traveling too slowly for our liking. We began to harbor expectations about the sparkling armada of promises. Heading our way, we make it into something that it is merely because we think it will be different from our present. In the third stanza, the speaker maintains that the ship will arrive in due time. These ships continue to leave us in a state of want and disappointment, though every distinctive big approach that brings sizable expectations along with it seems unable to provide what we search for. The fourth stanza builds upon these approaching vessels, even if these ships possess a figurehead with golden tips, a presumably desirable promises image. It won't meet our standards. It seems that reality never quite lives up to all of our fondest hopes and ambitions. Something we were excited about in the future quickly becomes the present. Then it fades to memory in the past. The ship itself never anchors. No sooner does it approach than it passes by completely what we once claimed entitlement to, like the promise of the future, ignores us and heads further onward. In the fifth stanza, the speaker laments the destruction of our hopes. It seems that each ship in the armada of fate always disappoints. Instead of unloading good things into our lives, each ship leaves us embittered. We wait long and devoutly for good things, believing that we are deserving of them. However, our hopes often clash with reality. The speaker contends that we have no right to such vain hopes. In the last stanza explains why this is so. The speaker maintains that there is only one ship heading for us, and it is black in color. As it approaches, we can see it towing a huge, wordless silence. Ominously, no waters break in the ship's wake. This macabre imagery leads us to think of death, the kind of Larkin's speaker may fear, one where an oppressive pile grips the soul of eternity. The futility of hope. The overarching theme of this poem is the futility of hope. The speaker opens by describing how we are always looking to a better future. We endure the present because it is only a prelude to the stillness of the better future. In the second stanza, the speaker lightens our focus on future hope to waiting for a sparkling armada of promises to come to shore. An armada is a fleet of ships, and a speaker in regions hope as such as a fleet. Out in the distance, he notes it seems to come very slowly. Hope these promises waste no time, the speaker decides. In stanza 3, he goes on to liken these promises to rigid stocks. We might even envision something wilting in our hands, continuing the extended metaphor of hope or expectations promise as a fleet of ships. The narrator describes how the ship sail, our awaited ship of hope never anchors. Crushing our hope, the narrator says that although we expect a ship to stop and have all good into our lives, we are always alone. We expect to be rewarded for devoutly waiting, but some such waiting is futile. The words devoutly and good in stanza 5 suggests we make a religion of waiting for a better future. But this is a false idol. Implicity, another theme emerges. If hoping is futile, it behooves us to seize the moment we are in and not let our lives float away, yearning for what we will never have. The poem also asserts the universality of hope's disappointment. The speaker offers no expectations to the disappointment of our expectations. There is not the rare person whose ship of hope and promise comes to port. We will be disappointed and finally dead without having really lived if we stand and wait for a better tomorrow and don't seize life as it is. In stanza 3, he goes on to like these promises to wretched stocks. We might even envision something wilting in our hands. Continuing the extended metaphor of hope or expectation promise as a fleet of ships, the narrator describes how the ship sail, our awaited ship of hope never anchors. Crushing our hope, the narrator says that although we expect a ship to stop and heave all good into our lives, we are wrong. We expect to be rewarded for devoutly waiting, but such waiting is futile. The words devoutly and good in stanza 5 suggest we make a religion of waiting for a better future. But this is a false idol. Implicitly, another theme emerges. If hoping is futile, it behooves us to seize the moment we are in and not let our lives float away, yearning for what we will never have. The poem also asserts the universality of hope's disappointment. The speaker offers no exceptions to the disappointment of our expectations. There is not the rare person whose ship of hope and promise comes to port. We will all be disappointed and finally dead without having really lived if we stand and wait for a better tomorrow and don't see life as it is. The inevitability of death. One theme to consider is the inevitability of death. In the final stanza, the speaker contrasts the inevitability of death with the futility of hope. This is imagined as a black ship that tows a huge and burdenous silence. While the ship promises that future will be better, this is the only one that seeks us out. Regardless of the expectations we hold in our lifetime, it is fact that death will come for us all eventually. It leaves no room to fantasize about our hopes and expectations. Death is unassuming, bringing quiet and moving towards the waters of life undisturbed. Though rather morbid and pessimistic, there is no denying the death's black cells will be received by all. Expectations versus reality of life. Throughout next play, Larkin's speaker emphasizes that our expectations for our lives differ, sometimes dramatically from our reality. We hold profound, meaningful ideas of what our lives will look like in the future. We are so sure that upcoming events, milestones, or other situations different from our own will drastically change our reality. But when these ships pass us by, we find we are the same as before. Larkin's speaker seems to be calling on the audience to adjust these unrealistic expectations. The reality is there is no such ship carrying goods of grandeur and will stop for us. Life will continue as present becomes the past. The poem calls for us to break the bad habit of expectancy to live in the realistic present. The inevitability of this. One theme to consider is the inevitability of death. In the final stanza, the speaker contrasts the inevitability of death with the futility of life. This is imagined as a black ship that tows a huge and borderless silence. While the ships promise that the future will be better, this is the only one that seeks us out. Regardless of the expectations we hold in our lifetime, it is a fact that death will come for us all eventually. It leaves no room to fantasize about our hopes and expectations. Death is unassuming, bringing quiet and moving through the waters of life undisturbed. Though rather morbid and pessimistic, there is no denying that death's black cells will be received by all. Expectations versus reality of life. Characters. In the poem Next Please, Philip Larkin's speaker is addressing people in general, saying that we are humans are often expecting something amazing to come along and change our lives. Always too eager for the future, we pick up bad habits of expectancy. Something is always approaching. Larkin's narrator claims that in our imagination, this expectancy takes the form of something as grand as an armada, offering with its sparkling exterior and brasswork ringed, a hope that a great change is about to come. All we have to do is continue what we have been doing and simply wait for the ship to come into port to change us for the better. The ship comes nearer and nearer until we can make out each roof distinct. Then at the last minute it turns and completes. As Larkin's speaker states, the disappointment we feel is palpable. We had expected the ship to pick us and take us to the place we feel we are owed or unload riches, but we suddenly find ourselves in arguably a worse position than before, bereft of all hope and enthusiasm for the future. In the last paragraph, Larkin's speaker introduces the ship that is seeking us. It is a type of ghost ship that arrives in the port in a borderless silence. Though Larkin's narrator does not state it directly, the reader understands that the ship has arrived to take us away, or at the very least, brings us bad tidings. However, this is not necessarily a whole negative poem. Larkin's speaker appears to be criticizing people's tendency to wait for something to happen and their assumption that the world owes them happiness. In Larkin's speaker's view, nobody is owed anything. One must strive to make what one can of the world. Analysis. Next, please, is a poem by Philip Larkin that draws on the human propensity to look beyond what is in the present moment in the hopes of obtaining more. It touches on the insatiable desire of the humanity and the resulting crisis it can create within ourselves. Larkin's speakers makes use of an extended metaphor equating the image of the ship to the to which is expected future opportunity and juxtaposing it with the sole thing that in all certainty draws near death. The coming ship metaphor is especially effective to represent the future. Though these vessels are assumed to carry wonders that will change our lives for the better, they often pass us by or disappoint us. They may be headed for different harbors or no harbors at all, majestic and desirable from a distance. We build them with unrealistic expectations to be what they are not ours. Larkin's tone is one that admittedly recognizes, if not reproaches, human nature for being always too eager for the future, and thus being susceptible to the unhealthy practice of constantly expecting. He describes the lure of faraway fortunes as a sparkling armada of promises, whose flashy appearance, whose flashy appearance takes our attention away from what is real and apparent in our life. Such constant eagerness for what is to come causes one's care and patience to erode creating the cognitive bias of seeing slowness in most everything. This makes us lose focus on the present. Larkins emphasizes this impatience with the use of exclamation. How slow they are and how much time they waste refusing to make us. He goes on to show how we tend to be very clear and perhaps too sure when it comes to our desires, often craving them in elaborate ways in our minds in something akin to lust. Always too eager for the future, we pick up bad habits of expectancy. This is a poem about how people live their lives in expectations of next great things without appreciating each passing moment. We are as larking rights, too desirous of what is to come, and we acquire the habit of what he calls expectancy, or always living in wait for something better. His little for the poem, his title for the poem, Next Please, is satirical, and it is what a person who works in a store might say to a customer waiting in line. It is almost as if we treat our wishes and dreams like customers in a queue. Watching from bluffs the tiny, clear, sparkling armada of promises from here. Larkin's narrator uses the extended metaphor of an armada of ships to represent our dreams coming true. Our dreams and hopes are like ships that near the bluff where we are waiting on shore. They approach in a sparkle of promise and they seem to never land but to always somewhere offshore. We seem to wait an eternity of their arrival. Each big approach, leaning with brasswork sprinkled, each rope distinct, flagged, and the figurehead with golden teeth arcing or way it never anchors. In these lines, Larkin's speaker describes the approach of our dreams as if it were the arrival of a well appointed ship. Each part of the brasswork on the ship has been polished, and each line or rope on the ship has been sorted out. The ship approaches with a buxom woman on its bow, and it arches toward us. The sexual imagery evokes our desire for more. However, although the ship is gleaming and full of promise, it does not come to shore. Instead, it just moves on, symbolizing the way in which the things we look forward to with such great expectations just pass off, leaving us waiting for the next great thing. Only one ship is seeking us, a black sailed, unfamiliar, towing at her back, a huge wordless silence in her wake, no waters breathe or break. In the last stanza, continuing the extended metaphor of arrival of the ship, Larkin writes that only one ship will come to shore, the ship of death. It is a black ship that is at first unfamiliar to us, and it has no waters behind it. In other words, it ends our lives, and there is nothing that follows it. All of our expectations are like ships that do not arrive on shore. But the only ship that does arrive is death. It is the only part of our fate that will definitely come true. Each big approach, leaning with brasswork sprinkled, each rope distinct, flagged and figurehead with gold tips. Larkin anchors this poem on a greater human flaw, entitlement. When the speaker calls us out for thinking we are owed or waiting so devoutly and so long. This calls to mind the idiom, good things come to those who wait. He puts a twist in it, giving a poem a sharp turn away from its earlier bright golden imagery toward an approaching vast, wordless darkness. It makes no hesitation to declare that in the grand scheme of things, at the every end of long wait, we all board the same ship towards our own morality, mortality. Larkin paints the picture of a stillness and nothingness with this last line. In her wake, no waters breathe or break. The rhyme scheme of the poem is AABB, lending it a swing rhythm, much like being in the waters. His stanzas are also visually noteworthy in the way they mimic the shape of a ship with part of the upper body jutting out before tapering at the bottom. This tapering likewise lends to an emphasis on the theme of expectations, as the last line of each stanza is inextricably linked to the first line of the next, where it is structure or in thought. It results in each stanza seamlessly flowing, the other coming in as one step after another, as the reader is taken on a journey through the different stages of waiting, expectations, disappointment, denial, disenchantment, until